YouTube, guys? My name is Miles. Today we got an interview with an author named Christoff, or hopefully I'm saying this name right. He wrote his first book called Detriment Lost Nation series. It's the first book of that series. I got some questions here to ask him, trying to get to know him. If I'm looking down, I'm looking at the questions. So here we go. This is my first YouTube video. I kind of want to get as much light and all that as possible. I got them. I should have some Minecraft gaming up and loaded soon. I'm trying to get a capture card for my Xbox to do recording for Battlefield. I think that's about it. So I'm gonna ask him the first question. Here we go. Did you realize you wanted to be a writer?
Well, pretty much as long as I can remember, I wanted to tell stories and write. I don't know if I always knew I would want to be a writer. I just enjoyed uh, telling those stories to friends, and as I got older, to my nephews and nieces, and like that. And it wasn't until I really knew what a writer was that I started thinking about it. And so maybe in my teens or so, I thought, you know what, I want to be a writer someday. Till I realized how hard it was, and then kind of went from there.
How long does it take you to write your book, or how long did it take you to write the first book?
Actual writing time for like my first book, Detriment, was maybe 3 weeks. Of if it was like if you compiled all the time I actually wrote, it'd be about 3 weeks. But it took almost a year because I work full time, still have a full time job, and as I try to get this writing going, and kids and family and everything like that. That it took about a year to write, and then I went through it a second time and added stuff and edited it, and then it went on to editing and went from there. So overall, about a year.
What is it like, uh, your schedule like when you're trying to write?
What am I? Ooh. I try to get about a little bit of time each day. Again, working full time, it's kind of hard. And I come home, I got 4 kids, and I don't know, and a wife and everything. And so family stuff really takes up a lot of time. But I try to set aside a little bit, at least once a week, to sit down and really write. I am very number central, organized, whatever. And so I try and set a goal of how many words to write per week, usually around anywhere from 5 to 10,000 words. I try to sit down, so anytime I can, I'll bring my laptop with me anywhere I go, and I just try and fit it in wherever I can.
What would be a couple of your interesting quotes?
Ah, hmm. Typically when I'm writing, I don't know if this is an interesting quirk, but typically when I'm writing, I like to have meditation music or whatever, like Inya, usually on some Inya CDs playing or something like that. It helps fill up the noise so I don't hear everything else going on around the house. In a house with 5 other people, it gets loud. Um, so having music that blocks out the noise yet doesn't really fill up my mind allows me to relax and think and concentrate. Maybe a different quirk is that sometimes if I hit a point in the book that I'm not sure exactly which direction to go or what's going to happen next, I will, not that moment, but later in that day, I'll take like in the evening, take a shower. And as I'm in there thinking, that strangely enough, that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from, is when I'm in the shower. Um, Maybe it's because it's the only place I don't have to worry about the kids interrupting me and asking me 100 questions. I don't know, maybe one day I'll have a shower office and I'll do some of my best writing.
Can you tell the fellow YouTubers how like books get published and how did you get your book published?
A typical way a book gets published is that someone either has an agent prior to writing that maybe they submitted a, trying to think what they call it. It's just like a short version, cliff notes of their story to an agent. The agent likes it, then the agent goes around and finds them a book deal. They sign the book deal, then they complete the book, and it goes from there. Another way is that you write a full book and then you try and go to different book publishing places to get it published. I'm a little different. I went a different route, being a independent and control freak that I am. I went and created my own publishing company called Ohana Books Publishing. And so I will be publishing all my works under that. So technically I'm self-published and independent, but I do hope that it will get large enough that it will, not that I'll be competing with, Penguin Books or any of those, but I feel it should be good enough for what I want.
Where do you get your informations and ideas for your books?
Um, I love history. I'm a history nut. I got a degree from ASU in history. I grew up watching 90% of the TV shows I watch, 90% of the books I read are documentaries about historical events. So I get majority of my ideas from something kind of one-off from history. Um, my next project after this one is a story about the rescue of the English troops at Dunkirk uh, during World War II. But I'm looking at it from a different perspective. So it'll be a story about that, but a little bit different. Lost Nation, I actually originally started about 17 years ago. Then I kind of set it aside because life got in the way. And it wasn't until I was in one of my marketing classes at Arizona State that we were talking about how the media kind of manipulates and directs the course of public thinking, that it kind of hit me again. I'm like, that could be very powerful. And again, comparing to history of World War II, Germany in the 1930s, of how questioning how did Hitler gain so much control. And so I started looking into that. And again, it's a historical event, very well known, but it's just looking at it from a different perspective. And that's what I guess I'm good at, is kind of being different.
How old were you when you wrote your first book, and what was it?
My Lost Nation is the first technical book that has been published and sold. I wrote my first story on a typewriter when I was 8 years old. It's about a paragraph long. It's about a one-eyed hot dog vending guy. I can't remember. If I find it, I'm going to post it sometime. But my first book that I printed and bound myself was, I think I called it Time Killers. I was about 12 or 13. It's about cowboys that fell into a whirlpool and got transported to a different time. And they were like these outlaws in modern day. It was typical teenage action, I guess you could say. So I guess that's my first book that I finished. Lost Nation is my first book. Detriment is my first book that's been published and sold to the public.
What do you do when you're not writing your book? What do you like to do?
Uh, I I have to be active. I my mind is always going. Some of my biggest things I love to do when I'm not writing is hunting or going shooting. I reload my own ammo. I enjoy doing that. Spending time with my kids. I live here in Arizona, so right now in summertime is when we kind of hibernate and stay inside because it's too hot. But from about September, October till May or so, we spend a lot of time hiking out in the desert, going shooting out in the desert, hunting out in the desert. Uh, we go on trips. We love road trips and stuff like that. And so anything outdoors, pretty much I love. I like to build with my hands. I'm always doing projects around the house. Uh, Pretty much the house we live in now, my wife and I together, we've done just about refloored it, knocked out walls, put in doors, rearranged walls inside to build bigger rooms, re-roofed it. We're always just doing something. And that's what I like. I like creating. And so,
So, what does your family think about you writing your books?
I think they're very supportive. Uh, my kids thinks it's cool, but at the same time, I'm still just dad. So there's a limit to how cool I can be. Though my kids have told all of their friends, and my older ones that are in high school, they've even sold some of my books to their friends and teachers. My daughter, who's in elementary, sold a book to her teacher, and so they think it's cool. But uh, you know, I'm dad. My parents are really supportive. My mom, she's always no, don't get too excited because you can't guarantee success, and so I think they all keep me very, very well grounded, like underground. But they're all excited and supportive.
What is one thing, or it can be a couple surprising things that you found out in creating your book?
Uh, Most surprising thing I learned. It's hard to say because I've researched so many different. I'm still researching different books, different ideas. Biggest thing that's almost kind of I don't know if it's surprising or more scary. While writing Detriment and writing Forbearance, the next book in the Lost Nation series, and doing research, just watching the news and seeing how real what I'm writing is and how easily this nation can be turned against itself and how much control the media really does have, and how it's surprising, I guess that's a good thing, surprising how many people don't pay attention to what's going on around them, that they're so focused on what's being told, excuse me, that they're so busy with their own lives that they turn on Facebook or log in Facebook or the news if they watch the news, and the few seconds of information they get from that, they take that and say, okay, this is all I need to know. And they don't bother to look into the facts or look into anything else, and they just leave it at that and move on to their next Pokemon hunt, go thing, or whatever else. So I guess that's the biggest thing that surprised me.
How many books or stories did you write that can be published, non-published, when you were little?
Um, Again, Detriment's the first one that I've written and sold. I've jotted down or told there's a good dozen stories that I've started or written or some process. I The other day I got here's one. I got these books, these little notepads. I got 20 of them with different book ideas. And when I'm researching, I'll just sometimes grab one and jot down notes. Each of them have a little title on the front, so I know which book it is for. Because I'm constantly thinking about stories. I'm constantly thinking about the stories I'm currently writing or working on or researching. And so, again, written only Detriment has been sold publicly, but written at least a dozen. I got about another 20 more easily.
Out of all those you just said, which one would be your favorite?
Uh, I try and guess which one's my favorite. Trying to say which one's my favorite kid. They're all different, like my children. They're all very unique. I enjoy each of them. They're different styles. They're different characters. I enjoy where they take me. I enjoy the ventures, even though they're out of those 20 stories. They are very, almost each of them are a different genre, almost maybe not a different genre, but different style, different time period, different whatever. Uh, and because of their uniqueness, I love them all. Like I said, I love telling stories, and I love sharing stories and sharing information with people.
Do you have any suggestions about becoming a better writer? And if you do, what are those?
Uh, Well, believe me, if I had suggestions how to be a better writer, I'd be telling them to myself. Because I still feel I feel that I'm always growing and always learning. Suggestions I do have, like my daughter, she likes to write, so I give her suggestions. There's a good friend of mine that, because of me publishing my book, he's inspired to get back to writing. Biggest suggestions that I have is don't quit, no matter how difficult it seems, no matter how much life gets in the way. If you enjoy writing, do it. And the best way to be a better writer is just keep writing. Just like kind of like Dory said, keep swimming. The same thing, that the only way you can get better is by doing. And put your stuff out there. Send it to people. Maybe not always publishing people, but send it to friends, family. Put it on websites to allow people to read and critique. It's hard being a writer to take criticism. I think it's hard for anybody, writer or not, to take criticism. But if it's someone you trust, that they are being constructive, any type of information helps. I mean, it's hard for me when I give my book to someone, to the editing department, get it edited. It's hard when they come back and have red lines through things or notes saying maybe you shouldn't do this. I'm like, but it at least gets me thinking. I don't always go with what they say, but I'd say 80% of the times I do. Other times, the other 20 times that I don't go with them, it at least forced me to rethink it. And so I guess that's the biggest suggestion I can have, is just keep writing. Learn. That's the only way you're going to learn to get better, is just by doing. Um, and you got to believe in yourself.
Um, do you hear from your writers much?
Um, I hear some from my readers. Of course, family and friends, and my doctor. One of my doctors have read it. So, of course, I hear from them. I have heard on Instagram a handful of people who read my book who really enjoyed it, or maybe they had questions or whatever. So I've heard from, I say, not counting family and friends, I've heard about it from a dozen people. All been really good feedback, been great to hear. I love hearing from people, especially if it's good, good feedback. I love hearing from them. It helps me kind of know which direction to go, and who doesn't like to hear compliments? Biggest thing. Uh, so yeah.
What kind of things do your readers say to you?
Basically things that they said. The first you can ask my wife, is she's with me a lot when people who have read my book uh, see me or whatever, and 99% of the time is, when's the next one coming out? That's usually the first thing they say, is followed up by, where do you get your ideas from? Some people, if I have time and start talking to them, they will start sharing with me their ideas of how America is failing, what is causing it, how we can make it better, giving me ideas for the continuation of the story. Some give me suggestions like, hey, you should put this in, or you should try this, or like that. And so otherwise, it's usually, when's the next one coming out? And stuff like that. Again, it's all been great feedback, and so it's always good to hear from people.
Do you like creating books for adults? And would you write any children's books?
I do enjoy writing for adults. I've tried in the past writing when I first had children. Started. My oldest is 17, um, or will be 17. Yeah, I think for me. Um, So when he was born, I sort of played around with ideas of writing children's stories, just short children's stories, but I'm a very detailed person, so it's hard to try and tell a story in such a condensed time frame for me. So I enjoy writing for adults because, one, it opens up a much larger palette of ideas, and it allows me to go into greater detail and to get my story across. Um, I kind of am jealous of people who can write good children's books because that's something that I cannot do. Just like I can't write music, which I wish I could. Um, but you know, you asked earlier in a suggestion for writing, and that is find what you're good at and stick with that. So yes, I do enjoy writing for adults.
What do you think makes a good story for a book or story, and what would be yours?
Characters. Characters drive the story. We learn from Shakespeare that a story needs three parts: an opening, a middle where there's a tragedy or a major event, and then the finale where everything is wrapped up nicely and everybody lives happily ever after. We've learned that from every romance comedy or Disney movie out there. But the biggest thing that makes a story good is the characters. They have to be real. They have to be something that the people can connect with. They have to be lovable and likable. That the characters will root for them when they're struggling and feel sad if they're hurt or losing. You have to make that connection. Without good characters, it doesn't matter what your story is about. And with good characters, it doesn't matter what your story is about. People will, if they fall in love with the characters and connect with them, you can take them anywhere you want with the story. I mean, a great example is Walking Dead, which I'm a fan of zombie movies, and so of course Walking Dead. You look at it from the beginning till now, how much they veered off from per se zombie aspect and focused on the collapse of society. And again, it's because you really connect with those characters, you'll follow them anywhere. And so that's what makes a good story.
As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
As a child growing up, pretty much I'd say the first thing I was thinking of as a kid was to be a doctor. Because of my health situation, I've spent many years worth of my life in hospitals and doctors' offices and stuff. And so naturally being around them all the time, I thought, hey, I can't beat them, join them. That I would be a doctor. I even in elementary, I was getting medical books and charts and learning all the bones in the body and the muscles and nervous systems and all like that. Full planning of being a doctor when I grew up. Of course, life changes. Again, I knew at a young age I loved telling stories, but I didn't really think that was a plausible career route. And when I got a teenager and I wrote my first story in Bandits and stuff, and I told people I want to be a writer, of course I got met with a lot of people saying, well, that's ridiculous, or that's a hard career to get into, you won't make any money, very few people succeed, so on and so forth. And so I gave it up and I just stuck with telling stories and not really thinking it as a career. I went back to the idea of being a doctor. It wasn't until high school that kind of got set aside, and then life got in the way, and I ended up getting a degree in economics at Arizona State, along with history, and getting in accounting, an exciting world of accounting and finance, which was something I did not think I would be doing when I grew up. But luckily now I have a chance to go after my real dream, and that is writing, and I hope in a couple of years to be able to say that's what I am. So.
That's all the time we have. Christoff, would you like to say anything else to the fellow YouTubers?
I just want to say thank you for taking your time to do this interview. It's really great. I'm looking for right now every opportunity to get the word out about the book. Um, like I said, I'm self-published, independent, and so I run everything. And so any and all bit of help, I'm really grateful for. So thank you, and best of luck.
Like I said in the beginning, guys, I'm going to start doing Minecraft videos, Battlefield, once I get a capture card. My friend is trying to sell me his capture card for around $40. I'm going to start, now I forgot to mention this in the beginning, I'm going to start doing survival situations, how to build a shelter, like quick one or long term, how to build weapons, bows and arrows, stuff like that, how to make tools, hammer. Um, that, there's more stuff I can't think of them right now. I'm gonna show you how to find water, how to make water clean. There's 3 different ways to make it. One costs money. Two of the three ways are easy, and one involves fire. One involves some like a charcoal, rot, sand, stuff like that to get all the bacteria out. And make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe to me.